Uh-huh. The word kirtan itself is derived from the root krit, to glorify. Thus, ask yourself before you begin to sing, whom do I glorify now? You can actually visualize yourself standing before your Lord and addressing Him through His holy name. O Radha, O Krishna. After we have connected with Krishna and start to address Him in a mood of servitorship, then, if we are able, it's wonderful to add violin, sitar, flute, etc., to produce a concert worthy of pleasing Krishna. But first things first, the relationship should always be the focal point. With that in our hearts, we can furnish further ornaments. If, however, you are not present in the relationship, you miss the point of kirtan and will always practice shadow kirtan, which will not nourish you spiritually. The real name versus the shadow name. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura has written two books on chanting, Sri Harinam Chintamani and the sequel, Vajana Rahasya. He says in the third chapter of Sri Harinam Chintamani that we need to chant in the awareness of our relationship with Krishna. If we don't do this, then we'll only ever obtain a shadow of the holy name, not the real name. यावत् संबंध ज्ञान स्थिर नहीं हया तावत् अनर्थे नामाभासेर आश्रय. As long as someone does not understand his relationship with Krishna, the individual soul will take shelter of Namabhas, the shadow of the holy name. Sri Harinam Chintamani 3.27. There is a difference between the real name and its shadow, just as there is a difference between an actual tasty meal on a plate and a projected image of one. We cannot actually eat from the latter. It is a shadow of the real thing, leaving us hungry, and as a result, forcing us to go elsewhere to eat something real. It is the same with chanting. If we chant the shadow of the holy name, that is to chant without any conscious awareness of our relationship with Krishna. We also remain spiritually hungry, and as a result, we are drawn into to test the pleasures of material world. Without the spirit of the name, we are forced to seek out material satisfaction and make unconscious compromises to our Krishna consciousness. The tragedy is that this is often done unconsciously, and we don't even know that we are really doing or what we are really doing or what we are really missing. You might ask, why can't we just remain neutral and go on chanting the name of Krishna distractedly without becoming materially motivated? The constitutional nature of the soul is to constantly gravitate towards enjoyment. We need enjoyment like we need water. Therefore, if we don't get spiritual enjoyment, we have no other choice but to look for short term, illusory material enjoyment. Hence, it is absolutely essential to get spiritually nourished. If we don't, our hearts will feel immediately spiritually weak. This is an important signal we often miss and must urgently pay attention to. Therefore, as long as one does not learn from a bona fide spiritual master about the true relationship that exists between oneself and the Supreme Lord, he or she remains consent to the anartha of ignorance. At a certain point in my life, I stopped all I was doing to look back on the years behind me. I was deeply disappointed because I could see that I had not made full use of the teachings of Krishna consciousness. I still had most of the symptoms of material consciousness. I needed to change something or felt I would die of frustration. It was then that I began a sincere inquiry into why my spiritual progress had come to a halt, and how I could truly advance from where I was. I asked the question, what is missing in my life? After arduous soul searching for maybe 3 to 4 years, one dear Vaishnava who was very close to Srila Prabhupada reminded me in a moving conversation of the importance of chanting the holy name properly. He challenged me, is that not what your spiritual master had told you? Why have you forgotten? These words came from the mouth of a man who chanted 64 rounds a day. There was tremendous force behind them. I thought to myself, he really does know what he's talking about. So I received his words deeply and felt a new awakening to the teachings of my spiritual master. Then I knew what I had to do. I began anew my journey with the holy name and discovered many things I had only heard of before. Perhaps the most important realization was that we have to chant the real name and not the shadow of the name. Let me ask you now, have you achieved what you most deeply desire in your spiritual life? What is your plan to get there? How long can you go on testing shadow spiritual experiences? 1 more year, 2 more years, 3 more years? It's a serious issue. Personally, I have spent a lot of my life in shadow chanting and I am still falling into the trap. When I look around, I see my devotees who are not yet spiritually satisfied because they too are experiencing only the shadow of spiritual life. They attain a semblance, a look like, but not the real thing. It is for this reason we are not as spiritually strong as we would wish to be. Stop here. Just summarize today's reading. So, beautiful points about like what is shadow chanting, what is shadow kirtan. Something new I learned today. So it's mentioned that word kirtan is derived from the root krit. Krit means to glorify. So we have to understand whom we have to glorify. So like kirtan, sometimes I have heard like people say they performed in the temple. Like kirtan is not a performance. So in kirtan, we should try to connect ourselves to Krishna. We should try to connect ourselves to Krishna and start to address him in a mode of servitorship. If this mode of service is not there, then it's a shadow kirtan, which will not nourish us spiritually. So if we are not aware about our relationship with Krishna, so what is our relationship with Krishna? Jivar Swarupe Krishna Nitya Dasa. We are the servant of Krishna. So we have to be aware about that relationship and chant. Then it means uh, if we are not aware about that relationship, that we are the servant of Krishna, then and in chant in that mode, that means we are taking shelter of shadow name, not real. So like beautiful example is given here in the reading today, that our hunger cannot be satisfied by the picture of some prasadam rather than real prasadam. Similarly, our spiritual hunger will be satisfied by real holy name, otherwise will get attracted to material things to satisfy our hunger. It is also mentioned that soul needs enjoyment. If we don't get spiritual enjoyment, we will look for short-term illusory material enjoyment. We should learn our true relationship with the Supreme Lord from the spiritual master. So Krishna is yeah. So about what is our relationship with Krishna, we have to learn from the spiritual master. So like we should not go for, it's mentioned that we should not go for like shadow chanting. We the real taste only, like we many times we have heard people say like we are not getting that taste in our bhakti, we are not getting in our sadhana, we are practicing since a long time, but we are not getting that. This is like when Prabhupada says chant and be happy, sometimes we chant but we are not happy. Why? Because we are not doing the real chanting. It's mentioned here that it is the like shadow. We are not the real name. We're not getting shelter of the real name rather than the shadow name. So we should try to avoid that. And it's mentioned towards the end that it's a real issue. We should try to take serious action about that, and we have to be serious in chanting. So